Hey boys and girls, Doug Giles here. It's Warriors, Rich.
And Wildmen. What's happening, Doug?
Hey man, how you doing? How's the health?
Doing good, man.
Give us a 30-second shakedown of the miraculous recovery of Rich Whitmer.
The COVID tried to kill me, went to the hospital, didn't die, 8 days, got out. They told me 6 months of oxygen. In 3 weeks, I was done with the oxygen. Pulmonologist said, keep it for another month around the house just in case. So, and they said that I was doing fantastic. They said they were amazed. They said it was good that I was good health, healthy, strong. And I said, and lots of people praying, thousands. And they were like, yeah. They didn't even try to argue with that. But,
right.
Yeah, so actually my recovery is as slow as it feels to me. It's amazing. It really is incredible. I almost went camping. I was like, after the podcast, I'm going to take my trailer, we'll go camping. And then I unloaded my luggage from the truck, and I was like, oh, I got to sit down for an hour and recover. So I was like, maybe we'll go camping next week. So that's where I'm at. But God's good,
man.
I'm blessed. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, you ought to turn it into a country and western song, man. It's got some great story elements, and I don't know, maybe see if one of the boys could crank something out.
Then I couldn't listen to it. Just kidding.
Hey, we got a great buddy of ours. I've been fortunate to get to know our guest over the last couple of years in person, not just over the internet that Al Gore invented. His name, you know him, Rich.
Yep.
I want to introduce him to the audience. It's Joe Prim. He is the CEO, El Presidente. He is the big dog over at Prepare, Defend, Lead podcast. Just came out with a new book. Good Lord. It's titled Open. See it right there?
Yep.
It's beautiful. 6 life-changing principles that are easy to implement but difficult to master. Joe, welcome to Warriors and Wildmen, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Huge fan of what you guys are doing at Warriors and Wildmen. Rich, I had you on a podcast a long time ago, and like you said, fun. Doug, had an awesome opportunity to get to know you and hang out at Cigars and Sermons. And thanks for having me, guys. It's really cool to be here.
Hey, Joe, one of the things that I like most about your new book, Open, is this your first book?
It is.
So what I like about your book, Open, is that it's like 60 pages long. I love that, man.
That's like Tozer-ish. He's like, say what you got to say, done.
Yeah. I had this buddy of mine, an esteemed colleague. You guys would know him. Yeah, very famous. And he penned a 900-page tome.
Ooh.
And frickin' gold. I mean, just absolute
Well, I don't know
best-selling.
enough to write a book of 900 pages, and that's including research.
Yeah, it got a little lugubrious, as they say in seminary. And he handed it to me, signed edition, beautiful hardback. And I said, so-and-so, thank you. I'm honored. I'm glad you're my buddy. I'm never going to read this. I ain't got time for bronchitis. So, Joe, tell us the inspiration. I mean, I see it right here. What caused you to frickin', take hope and take anger and take intensity and get behind, your Mac Pro or your Dell and just start banging away at the keyboard like JoJo the Monkey Boy?
The book was a long time coming for me. I think you asked me last time we were together how long it took me, and it took me 5 years to really put this thing together. And, it came out of some difficulty in my life, really. It came out of a spot where on one hand we had lost our home during, what happened in 2008 and 2009, and coming to a rock bottom place where I felt like I had completely failed my wife and my 2 little kids, and at the same time going back to work and really in very quick manner hitting all of my goals that I had set for myself career-wise in my mid-30s. And so I had like this complete 2 opposite things, one that was a huge success and one was a huge failure, but in the middle was an completely unhappy, unsatisfied, bored, frustrated young man who knew that he was meant for something more. He grew up through Sunday school and through going through, and good parents too that are always telling you you're meant for something more, but really kind of following through on everything that the world had told me that I needed to do or should do, and being completely unsatisfied with it. And it led to this point where I was like, I started praying for wisdom, and James, it says, if any of you is lacking wisdom, to pray for wisdom. And in real short order, God started opening my eyes to things. And I started seeing things around me that I was completely oblivious to before. And a lot of what I was seeing around me was the lies that the world was telling me, but also what I was seeing around me was the lies that I was telling myself. And that was probably the bigger thing. And I remember praying, and I started getting up earlier and having more time in the Bible and praying and stuff like that, and praying, God, give me something that I can share with other people like what I'm experiencing now, so that I can help wake up other men and help wake people up to see that there's something more here besides just going through the day-to-day rinse and repeat over and over and over again. That there's a life here. It kind of reminds me, I've been thinking this week where, on Mission Impossible, they say, here's your mission should you choose to accept it. And I feel like God is like saying, here's your life should you choose to accept it. And there's so many people right now stuck in that comfort zone. And whether that comfort zone's a good thing, like going to the gym, or that comfort zone's their favorite spot in that pew every single Sunday where they show up, they're in their comfort zone and they're telling God, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm content where I'm at. I don't need to stretch my faith muscle. And
that's something like nowadays, Joe and Rich. How could anybody with a lick of frickin' sense, with just an infinitesimal amount of care, and the myopia that's deeply entrenched in a cyclops, be in a rut, content, not fully engaged right here and right now, because there is so much shit pouring into the fan? How anybody could carry on, Joe, especially a dude, okay? How any guy, how any man could carry on business as usual after the COVID poison was sent to us from China, and after Biden in a brief 9 months has completely gutted the United States of America and has made the Taliban great again. How people can just continue on business as usual, it's beyond me. My whole life has changed, and I posit myself as some guy who constantly jacks with himself and visionary and dreamer and all that other good stuff. Plus, a jackass and
Did you say you jack with yourself?
Well, I didn't say
you said that. I
wanted
to let it go because
I mean jack with myself, not jerk with myself. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, I was going to let it go, but just as a man, I just can't.
We could change the podcast name to Warriors and Floggers. How's that?
Well,
so Joe again,
crowd.
Rich, man, I don't know how in the world people continue on business as usual. I don't.
I know how they do it, Doug. They don't care. They're not interested in those things. They're interested in their own life. I'm not discounting what you said.
The whole life has been
but you are dealing
dealing
with a different strata of people. When you get down with just everyday people that are doing everyday things, I'm not talking about living in $800,000 up multi-million-dollar houses and they're taking vacations in the Bahamas. I'm talking about everyday working people that are lucky if they can get a week off to go to the mountains. Those kind of people are ignoring those bigger things because they're so focused on themselves. I see that, and I don't think they're interested until the obvious trickle down happens and it gets in their business. And it could be the stupidest thing in the world, but something that touches them, now all of a sudden they're interested. They don't even watch the news. Well, I don't watch the news. I read the news, but they're just not interested. They don't even want to talk about it. But
Joe, how do the buddies in your circle with your podcast prepare, defend, lead? Are they laissez-faire? Are they switched on? Are they mastering new traits? Are they challenging themselves? Because again, I don't know how. I mean, Rich, I see nurses, man, that are making decent scratch and stuff, and they're working in hospitals. Hospitals are demanding they get COVID. They treat COVID patients, and they're like, you know what? I quit. I'm not going to do it. You're not going to foist this thing on me. And relatively kind of nondescript type girls and guys that are really not big culture warriors, that all of a sudden they perfected the middle finger, and it's like, we're not taking this poison. And we know very well the ingredients of it because we treat people with it day in and day out.
Let me just say that nurses don't know shit about what's in that because they know what they're told by the doctors who are told by the CDC. So I've had conversations with I had conversation with a doctor this week that knows less about COVID pneumonia than I do. That's because I was talking to infectious disease doctors, doctors that specialize in COVID, pulmonary doctors, and I have a doctor who's talking to me who doesn't know what I know about it. And look, this happened to me a few weeks ago. I don't pretend to know everything, but I've talked to nurses that don't know anything about hydroxychloroquine, only what they tell them. They don't know anything about ivermectin except what they're told. So to put nurses out there as an example of someone who knows something, the doctors don't even know. So the nurses are way down the food chain. But the problem is when you don't know and you think you know. That's most nurses right there. And I'm not against, I love nurses. I had great nurses.
Yeah,
I'm not picking on them.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about, but I personally know these nurses, and they know their stuff. I mean, they
well, I think people have the right to quit over.
Goofy
you can't
people.
Make people go get a vaccination,
right?
But
anyway,
for nurses to pretend
yeah.
like they know more than epidemiologists and
Rich, you're missing the point. The point is that these people have just had this massive curveball tossed to them, and instead of just going on business as usual, just like Joe said, they're being hit with this epic change. Yeah, so Joe, 6 life-changing principles. I would say, again, given this day and age, things are a-changing. So how do these 6 principles weave into the whoop and warp of what's going down in the post-COVID America?
And Joe, let me give my quick intro on the book. So I don't read a lot of books that come out now because I find them redundant and they lack information and structure. I'm just not interested. And I read a lot of classics all the time. I read Doug's books, and obviously the book that I wrote the foreword to, I read every word of that book because it's not honest to write a foreword for a book that you don't read. So when I got the copy of your book, I thought, I really want to read this. Nothing personal against you at all. Charisma sent me books and said, can you read these books and then give us your feedback before we put them out? I said, sure. They sent it to me. They said, what'd you think? I said, chapter 3 is awesome. The rest of the book's a waste of time. Why did I read that? And they said, well, most books are one thought. They could be an article, but articles don't sell, so we fluff them out and put a hard jacket on them. We sell them. That's what we do. I said, okay, well, stop sending me your books. I'm not reading them. So that's my attitude about books. It just has nothing to do with you. So but we're going to talk about it. I want to at least have an idea. And I got your guide to it. And so I started reading through it. I got to be honest, man, thought it was awesome. I read it and I became interested and curious. And that was without trying. It caught my attention because it's very practical for the average person, and not average in a negative way, just the common man. I think it's very practical. It addresses real questions that people have inside of them. And I'm honestly really excited to read the rest of the book. And so as I was reading, I thought it was great because it was, like I said, it's something that it identifies the problem, addresses the problem, and then gives you some solutions to walk it out. It doesn't say everybody needs to go do this, but you need to find out what the answer is by walking these things out in this manner. So I really, really like that. I'm looking forward to the book. And just reading that part that you sent me, I have guys that I'm going to require my guys to read it. So one of the things you said is people get content, but you were talking about you were not content. You had satisfied your goals, but you weren't content. So I think that's a key. I think a lot of people accomplish certain things and I think they feel comfortable, but I don't think they're content because they haven't developed the hero that's inside of them. It's their destiny. We call it whatever we want. We can make it preaching words and be like, that's your destiny, but that's inside of, that's in your DNA, right? And so I think one of the biggest problems, maybe you address it in the book. Like I said, I didn't get to read the whole thing yet, but I think one of the biggest problems is people will have everything set up the way that they think they're supposed to. and then they're unsatisfied or dissatisfied inside, and they start aiming that at the wrong people or other people in situations instead of, like you said, stop lying to yourself. So anyway, those were my thoughts reading it. Great job, man. Great job. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the book. So go ahead. I wanted to say that because I knew at the end it probably wouldn't make much sense.
Thanks, Rich. I really appreciate that. You know, when your first book, and like I said, it took me a while to write it because that's really where my podcast came out of, the fact that I felt I couldn't write a book. I felt that was kind of above me when I first started on this journey. And rather than call it the 6 principles, it was the 6, I called it the open concept, because it was only a concept at that time. And through the years, I've proven it out, and I call them principles now. But that was where the podcast came from, and I felt God put this burden on me to share these 6 things. And I was like, okay, God, that's fine. I'll do 6 podcast episodes, and that's it. And I'll move on. And God never let it go. You know, it was always there. So back to the 6 things to answer your question, Doug. It's really broken down, I've come to see, into 3 different parts. The first 2 principles are really about you. They're opening your mind to the lies around you and the lies you tell yourself, and coming to the realization that the damage that lies cause in your life, and that lies always bring death. It might not happen quickly. It may happen over a long period of time, but lies bring death upon you and those that you care about. And number 2 is opening your eyes, and those both deal with you and how you perceive and how you see the world and how you deal with the world. And then you have open your ears and open your mouth, which deal with communication and listening to people rather than just hearing what you think they're going to say. And speaking, you know, when I first started the book, it was really about speaking out and speaking what your opinions were. And really through the years, it kind of changed to more of an understanding of speaking with empathy and utilizing it along with opening your ears to hear what people are saying. And then from there, the open your heart and open your arms are really about your tribe, your people, and the necessity to in the open your hearts about your family, about your wife and your kids, and opening yourself up. You know, there's such this idea of being stoic and stoicism right now amongst the men who are more into self-growth or personal growth. And I think that stoicism really tries to turn you into a feelingless robot. And you cannot function as a leader of your family as a feelingless robot. They need to see who you are, and there's a real necessity to not only show love, but show vulnerability and the willingness to sacrifice for them. And then you go into opening your arms, which is really about building that community, building your tribe, building your people, your brotherhood, because you need other men that are going to have your back when the going gets tough, and that will confront you when things are going sideways maybe. But it's not just about accountability. You know, what I would like to say is a lot of churches like to have an accountability group, and I think the focus is in the wrong place. If you focus on building brotherhood and relationships with people, that accountability comes naturally and it's accepted. If you don't like somebody or don't know somebody and they think they're going to hold you accountable, all it's going to do is frustrate you, anger you. You're never going to take it for what perhaps they meant it to be.
Joe, have you ever dealt with the stuff like the accountability questions that you ask your accountability partner? And then the last question is, have you lied on any of these questions? It's like, well, we've already made you sin. Let's make you sin twice. You know, those things are crazy. And any type of enforced accountability is not real. It's like saying, hey, we're held accountable to the speed limit by the police. That's not accountability. That's if we catch you, you get a ticket. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like when they started the seatbelt laws, I was like, I'm not wearing seatbelts. I grew up, we never wore seatbelts. And then my kids started saying, Dad, please wear your seatbelt. We don't want you to die. And I was like, fair enough, because I want them to wear their seatbelts. So I started wearing. That's real accountability. That's just like, hey, I care about you. Don't do that. Natural. But all the seatbelt laws in the world, and click it or ticket, and all their little fancy say, I don't care about any of that. And so I like what you said. If you build a real relationship, real accountability, cares about your friend, that's natural. You don't have to bring it up. Being your brother, I care about what you're going through. That's accountability. I think that's really good.
Hey, Joe, before we wound up for the pitch on this podcast with you, you and I were talking about how you're finding it impossible for men in particular to be mute in this day where where lies, hype, and spin abound. So the whole aspect, like I was telling you, I've got a buddy of mine. He's created, I think, like 6-8-figure businesses since I've known him, and that's been since 2012. And very apolitical, moves in and out of the hoity-toities on the left and the right, and again, very popular, very wealthy, and very apolitical until the age of COVID, and especially after Biden was seated in the White House. He became so bold, so vocal for the principles of liberty and freedom, Joe, that I've never seen this come out of him, man. I mean, it's like a switch just was, turned on, and brother, he opened his mouth like never before. What would your advice be to especially all the young dudes that are out there who feel enormous pressure, to shut the front door and just be a good little sheeple?
Don't do it. Don't do it. This right now, if there's ever been a time where we are needed in the arena versus in the seats, in the bleachers, just watching what's going on, now is the time to get involved. Now is the time to build that tribe of people that are going to have your back when times get tough. Now is the time to speak out. We're at a point where there's really not that much left to lose.
No, that's true. That's totally true. And then another thing I think that will maybe help people to identify with the book. Can you talk a little bit about how you write? You had reached your goals, everything was cool, but then you started playing video games and time, because I think there's a lot of people that are doing that. You want to talk about the mindset like in that made you want to write these things, or to come out of that and then to write it, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had an addiction to video games, and really it was a desire to escape the reality that I had created for myself. And that's what I think part of coming out of that, and part of looking to and getting into growth and growing out of that, is you have to come to the realization that I don't want to be where I'm at right now. And that's the hardest part, is coming to that realization that this is just not acceptable. I was made for something more. I'm meant for something bigger than this. And for me, I took my responsibilities as a father seriously. I took my responsibilities at work seriously. But man, in my free time, I gamed. And that was what I did, to the point where I had played everything on the Xbox 360 at the time that I had any desire to play. I had played through every single game from the beginning to the end, and bought a PS3 that year solely for the exclusive games that only were available on PS3, so that I could play those through from beginning to end. I think that year, when all this kind of finally came to a head with me, I played through and I'm talking, I played through to completion on over 30 games.
Well, can you give us an idea? Because I know Doug and I, we don't play games. It's not virtuous. We just don't do that. I mean, that's just not our deal, our escape. But give us an idea of how many hours we would be talking about, because I have no reference.
Yeah, we're talking probably squeezing in about 20 hours a week. And that's with a full-time job and being a full-time dad.
That's a lot.
Hey, Joe, did you hear a message like, "Hey, dumbass, quit wasting your time"? And then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, that's me," what triggered?
Because what it is you lie to yourself. When I played those games, the way that I played them, I was accomplishing something. I felt like I was doing something with my time. I had changed my mindset from being just a waste of time.
There's scientific, there's a reward.
Something.
There's a reward for that. Dopamine, all this stuff. And when you start going through that, it's a sense of accomplishment. I've read about it. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, because, I've heard some people, learn how to, operate, various weapon systems, fly a plane, again, just like Rich said, the last game that I played on a TV was Pong, when it came out in 1973 and stuff. So that's, and again, we all have our vices. Not that gaming is a vice, but you just look at say there's the gaming's not involved. My book, Do You Have a Pitbull Attitude, that I wrote back in 1998. I saw this study, guys, where it says that most people watch an average of 50 hours of TV a week.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so that was kind of I wouldn't be binging like that, but I was probably half that, given your gaming numbers and hours that you spent, Joe. That's what I was doing, and I found out that kind of mindless addiction is this thing called EIR. It reduces your income really quick if you do that kind of stuff. It just eats at dreams. It eats at visions. And
right.
I've got a buddy of mine who, during the COVID plague, got his whole company shut down. And the guy immediately pivoted, and he's now got a multi-million-dollar company that he created.
That's what I'm talking about.
Out of thin air. And, some people, going forward, going ahead, if they want to do something, that's great and wholly just and good, you gotta put an axe to just stuff. It might not. I mean, it wasn't porn that you were doing, right, Joe? It's not like 20 hours of porn. It's 20 hours of gaming, and yet it was something that you felt convicted over, right?
Well, yeah, because again, I believe it comes back to the same idea of lying to yourself. Mm-hmm. You can lie to yourself and tell yourself, hey, yeah, but I'm watching educational TV shows, or it's okay, I'm accomplishing goals, or it's okay, I'm doing
this is my downtime after taking care of everything else.
Yeah, exactly. You can make these excuses for yourself, and you justify things in your mind instead of coming to the realization that, no, I can do more. There's something bigger here. Right. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it's going to lead, but I'm going to have the faith to just do this. Let's see where we go.
Doug, you said watching TV, and it's funny because I've had these conversations with young people. It's like, you can't waste your time watching TV, and they're so proud. They say, we don't. Their brain is melded into the face of their phone.
Right.
And it's, I promise, there's right on the front of your phone, you can go in there and find what your screen time is. And I made my kids show me that one day. Doug, they were so ashamed. They didn't want to show me. They were mad. I was like, bring it over here, put it on the table, because even they know that's stupid.
Yeah, one of the greatest joys in and I'm experiencing it, guys, kind of week after week, is that I get an alert from my iPhone. I don't know what model it is. I think it's 11 or something. And it's like, your screen time this week is down 25%. I'm like, hell yeah.
Nice.
I get in and I get out, man. I do business, like with Instagram. That's the only platform I'm active on anymore. Get in and get out, and don't sit there and just spend god-awful time. Hey, Joe, in regards to being an author, I've got a buddy of mine, Craig Boddington, who's written for Peterson Hunting and Guns and Ammo, and he's just a famous hunter writer, just focuses on, guns, optics, and ballistics and stuff like that. And I was asking Donna one time, his wife, she was up here in Texas, it's like, so where's Craig? And she's like, he just took off to Zambia, and he's in the process of writing 6 new books. And I'm like, man, how does he do that? I mean, he travels all over the world. I mean, he's hunting Pakistan, Africa. She goes, first of all, he's got a great job, because his job entails hunting, all over the planet. Yeah. But it's still a job. He's also, I think the top-selling author for Safari Press. She said he writes constantly. He does not stop working. She said, we'll have 20 people over at the house, and he'll be over there writing a book and talking to people, and how you doing, and howdy.
That's a skill, man. That's a gift right there.
But I tell you, the thing that when I got COVID, I was sitting there like, oh, poor me, poor me. and I was remembering a guest that Rich and I had on, Patrick Byrne. He's
I thought
CEO,
about him when I was sick too.
Overstock. He gets cancer, Joe, and he's like, what can I do during this in-between time? So he freaking learns Mandarin. And then I think he got it again, right,
I think
Rich?
he had cancer through most of his 20s. I think he got 2 PhDs, a master. Like, it's ridiculous.
Right. No, so I'm sitting there, it's like, you know what? I'm a little bit operative. So instead of just, watching the world burn via whatever news channel nowadays, I decided I got to paint. So I painted 3 paintings, and I wrote a book that's coming out next week, Psalms of War, Prayers That Literally Kick Ass. And can you imagine, Joe, and the people, the Warriors and Wildmen viewer and Rich, if we just captured the wasted time? Because we're going to be held accountable not only about what we say and what we think, but we're also going to be accountable for the way we spent our time, man. And I want to make my time here on the planet as constructive as I possibly can, and getting the message out about God's love and his goodness, and that men are not supposed to be tinkerpots, but providers, protectors, hunters, and heroes. So I think that, Joe, that was a huge thing. Look what came out of it. A frickin' book came out of it. A move to Texas came out of it. You got a crazy, great home up in Burnett with wild animals roaming around. You could be 60 pounds overweight and still sitting back in Illinois, watching lint grow in your navel.
No, exactly. Exactly. I could be there right now. And that's the beauty of living a life of faith. It's the unknowing of what's going to come next. It's the believing and trusting that God's got something for you. And for those that are just not sure how to make that step, I would say the step is the step from consuming to creating. Just begin to create. And whether you're creating a book and just starting some notes, or whether you're creating a podcast, or creating a poem, or creating a painting, or a drawing, begin to create. And once you begin to create, the creating will overtake you. God created us and built us to be beings that created. And when you start to create things, your mindset changes, the way you look at things changes, the way thoughts come into your mind and the way things are brought to you changes. And to me, that's a great first step towards getting away from that consumption, is just to begin to create something. Even if you don't know what it is, just create.
It's really good.
Right. And there you are again, doing something instead of consuming something. And I was talking to this person the other day, and 2 artists, and they pretty much put the paintbrush down 20 years ago, and I'm exhorting them to because they're pretty good. And to me, like, if you're a crap artist, unless you're going to do abstractions or or some kind of resurrect Dadaism or something like that from the early 20s, then okay. But if you've got that skill set, hello, God gave that to you, and I believe he said, if I give you a gift, don't frickin' stick it under a bucket, please. Mm-hmm. And they're like, dude, I just don't have time. You've carved out a substantial chunk of your day, your week, your months, your years to paint, and you've done it over a 10-year time period. I don't have that luxury. I was like, I frickin' didn't have the luxury when I decided to do it, because God convicted me. It's like, listen, I gave you that, and you're doing nothing with it.
Yeah, I love the word luxury.
Right.
I like how they apply the word luxury to your life, but when it works out in your life, it's discipline, self-sacrifice, commitment, determination, perseverance. But you know what? You just go ahead and call it luxury, and we'll just say it like it is. You're lucky,
right?
And they're not lucky.
Well, again, everybody, gents, everybody has F-off time. I guarantee that what they said, I don't have the time for it, that they're wasting it. Like Joe self-reprimanded him for all the gaming consumption. Yes, you do have it. It might cost you your martini time. It might cost you, you hanging out at the wine bar with the girls, twice a week. it might cost you the oh so precious screen time on Instagram or Facebook. You got the time. And, but anyway, so me just trying to prime the pump and jack with them and see if they would take any kind of admonishment at all. I said, just walk up to the canvas, walk up to the sketch pad and just scratch something on it. Make a damn line, draw a stick man. Because like you said, Joe, what I find as an artist is it ain't, it's like, I don't feel inspired today. That doesn't mean shit. You got to tack it like it's a work. You put, perspiration in, inspiration will come. And there's a lot of times where I just block out and I start creating and I'm just like, I'm not feeling this at all. And then it's like, this is sucking over here. And I don't know where this
Gene Simmons said inspiration is the language of the lazy. William Shatner was interviewing him and said, hey, what was your inspiration for this song? And he said, inspiration is the language of the lazy. He said, our greatest song we ever wrote, I said, we need an anthem. Anthems are in D. Guys, we need to write our greatest song. And we wrote it and we make the most money off it. That's how it works.
Yeah. And I find, Joe and Rich, when I'm doing the work, it comes. Then here comes, Yeah,
you're moving.
Then it starts flowing and then, the spark is there. And, but anyway, you can't do that, if you don't block out the time, man, and if you don't put on the apron and mount the canvas and start pushing the paint, it's just you can't do that watching, TV and doing gaming and whatever it is. Start a business, man. People say, I love entrepreneurs and I dream of being an entrepreneur. It's like, an entrepreneur pretty much for the first 3 years that when he launched whatever good service or merchandise, that he put in probably 90 hours a week, instead of this 35 or 40 hours. He's 2Xing you just to live bold, wild, and free.
Exactly. And Stephen Pressfield talked about that, and I believe the War of Art talked about that, about inspiration and saying, no, you just got to grab up your lunchbox and put on your work boots. Mm-hmm. The bus driver doesn't talk about inspiration. The construction worker doesn't worry about inspiration. You just go do your job, what you were created to do. You just go and do it day in and day out, and some of it might be a fail, and some of it might not be acceptable, and some of it might not be your best work. But that doesn't stop you or slow you down. You just go and do what you're meant to do.
I saw a great meme the other day that had a guy leaning on a shovel, and it says, faith doesn't work like this. You don't lean on a shovel and pray for a hole.
A whole lot of that going on, Rich.
A lot of that.
I think that'd be a good song also, man.
I'm writing songs, Doug. Maybe I'm a country songwriter and I didn't know it.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of gifts that, it's weird because you guys know that my shoulder's been jacked up. So after doing hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, I don't know if they have any kind of anti-inflammatory properties in them, but after COVID, dude, I have no problems in my shoulder. How freaking weird's that? And I'm going to chiropractors.
Well, it's because you took horse medicine.
Heck yeah,
That's
man.
That's what they say. Whatever, man.
Hey, Joe, we got to roll, man. Love having you on. We will have you on more often. And it's great seeing you at Cigars and Sermons. I'm glad you're down here in the epic Republic of Texas. 30 seconds. What do you want to leave the Warriors and Wildmen listener with?
Get up and do something. Get out of your comfort zone, do something. You'll figure it out along the way. You don't need to sit down, make notes, figure out exactly where you're going, what your plan is. Just start taking action and trust that you will figure it out along the way. Yeah. Put trust in good people, talk to good people, pray about what direction you should go in, but just start taking action now. And
get Joe's book. Joe, we're gonna get a pile of those. We're gonna have our guys read those. In our church, and it's great. And I want to share something real quick before I close. I was preaching a few years back, and I said, because I would help a lot of people, especially young people. I had an internship program, so I would help them with their time management. They would write out everything that they did in 20-minute increments and then bring it to me after a week. And then I would help them look at their schedule. Because so many people are stressed, I think that's funny. Nothing causes more stress than procrastination. You feel the pressure of what needs to be done while you're not doing it, and it doesn't get better, it gets worse. So I would help these young people. And when I was preaching, I said, I have never met a young person with a full-time job that I didn't show them how in the time they're wasting, they could get a 4-year degree. And there was a guy in our church. He heard that. He never said anything to me. And he came to me in 3.5 years and said, there's my diploma. I did what you said. I took my free time, started going to college. This is a guy that worked for a pool company. Literally went and got his bachelor's degree in 3.5 years. And he said, well, you said it, so I went and did it. He literally just went and did it with the free time that he had. Now he's a leader in our church. He's a very productive person. He's an awesome guy. And when you need stuff done, he's the guy they go to. I mean, he's that kind of guy. And so just what you're saying, man, take the free time and start making it count. And then there's a great Bible verse that I think we were referring to earlier, Ephesians 5:16, says, redeeming the time because the days are evil. And I think that's really, it makes the book more important at this time. And what makes something prophetic is the timing. And so I think that book has the ability to become prophetic to those that will get that word and apply it to their lives right now because of what's happening in the world, but also what's happening in our culture and in ourselves. So great job. Looking forward to reading the rest of it and getting it out to the guys.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Yep, Warriors and Wildmen, the book is open. 6 life-changing principles that are easy to implement but difficult to master. Our guest is Joe Prim. Prepare, defend, lead, damn it. That's his podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe. Once again, thanks, Joe. We'll see you soon, amigo.
Thanks for coming on, Joe.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks, guys.
And guys, we'll put a link. Go ahead, Doug. Sorry.
Yeah. So definitely we'll link on the mailer to Joe's book and blow it out there, and you guys can pick it up. Rich, what do the Warrior and Wildmen junkies need to do as we close out this bad boy?
Go to warriorsandwildmen.com. Subscribe, like us, love us, follow us. It's free. You get a couple emails a week, and follow us on social media wherever you can find us. You can listen to the podcast. You can watch the video of the podcast. But make sure to subscribe because we are getting deplatformed in a few areas, and that'll make sure you're able to keep up with what's going on. And if you like what we're doing, you want to help us push it out there farther, deeper, wider, hit the war chest. It's tax deductible. We'll send you all the information for that. Warriors and Wildmen, out.